What is up, everybody? This is Lyle with No Hippie Trucking and Transportation, and I have a few questions that keep reoccurring about how come I spent so much time in TNT training. Now, for some of you guys that just subscribed to this channel, if you go back to some of my older videos, I pretty much start my journey in trucking before I even chose a company to go with. So I did answer this question in previous videos, but let's just get into that now. So I did in excess of 150,000 miles in TNT training, and I did that with two trainers. The first trainer I was with wasn't a match for a number of different reasons, but after 2 weeks I got the trainer that I spent the bulk of that TNT training with, and he's coming back to Prime. He left Prime for a while. He's coming back to Prime February 3rd-ish, somewhere in there. So if you happen to get a trainer named Devion, listen, you got a good trainer. So anyway, let's just get to why I decided to go that long in TNT training. First of all, when I got into Prime, the requirement was 30,000 miles. During that 30,000 miles, and currently, never had a critical event, no accidents, none of that stuff. So it was by choice that I actually did it. The reason I did it, well, let's rewind a little bit. Even going into TNT training, my kind of the goal I'd put on myself was 50,000 miles right off the bat, just because I just don't feel like you could be overtrained. And I'm 51 years old, so I tend to take a longer view on things. To me, the difference between, 100,000 miles or 150,000 miles and 30,000 miles is such a short span of time that I really wasn't too worried about the time. Now, unlike some people, I wasn't necessarily worried about the money as much as some people would be. But that being said, once I got over 30,000 miles, at that time at Prime, they did kick up your pay to a minimum of $1,000 a week. So that did help make that decision a little bit easier. So I'm not sure if they're still doing that now, but that's what it was at the time. So reasons I did 150,000 miles. So got with my second trainer. We're running the roads, doing what we got to do. Sorry about this airplane. But we're running, getting all the miles, doing everything. And kind of when I started thinking about, okay, I feel super comfortable getting out on my own, it was kind of close to that, let's say now it's January, going into February. This would have been around October. I was thinking, okay, I'm super comfortable enough to kind of get out on my own. Well, then I started thinking about the business implications of starting a business at the end of the year. So my plan was to hold off until the end of the year to go out on my own, just so when I go lease and start my business and all that stuff, it would be started right in January. Now, my trainer at the time ended up leaving to do some, he had some personal goals that he wanted to take care of, so he handled that stuff. So I ended up getting off the truck. So here's why the 150,000 miles was valuable to me. Now, some people, regardless if they do, 30,000 miles or, 150,000 miles, some people are just going to be able to transition somewhat smoothly into being solo by themselves. But some of the benefits that I got out of going this long with my trainer was, well, there's a bunch of them. So any of you guys out there that's concerned about how long 50,000 miles is, I get it. You might be with a trainer that's plain. You might be with a trainer you're not necessarily getting along with, or you might not be making the money you want. Listen, I'm not here to say that you're in the wrong for wanting to get off as soon as possible, but here's where those 150,000 miles really benefited me. And a lot of them wasn't the driving. To me, outside of the natural progression and backing and stuff like that, the driving was pretty much going to be automatic. I mean, I didn't have any issues with driving. I would have liked to got a little bit more winter experience, but even then, the snow isn't necessarily scary to me. I'm more worried about other people driving in the snow than myself. As a matter of fact, side note, just coming through Nebraska on my way home, and there was somebody super trucking along, tried to pass up another truck, lost control, took him and the other truck out. I don't know what happened with that accident, but I just heard it over the CB when I was sitting at the Petro out there. So anyway, that's just a side note. So here's where those 150,000 miles came in handy. You know, when you put in that much time in TNT training, you're going to be going to a lot of these same shippers and receivers. You're going to start understanding what their procedures are, things like that. So when I first got out here, you know, I'd say at least half of the shippers and receivers were shippers and receivers that I've been to before. So it was just kind of like a seamless process. I didn't, you know, I almost felt like I was pulling up to the house when I was pulling into some of these places. So, you know, that's one area that I think benefited me the most. The second area, and I wish I would have taken more time thinking about this and actually writing things down when I was driving, is especially in the Northeast and in like that San Francisco, Oakland, all that area in California, is doing all that driving. You see a lot of different places to park. So now I know, and I'm not going to be telling everybody this place, but I know if I have a load going into Oakland, San Francisco, anywhere within like that, let's say 80-mile diameter, I know exactly where to park when I go out there. The only reason I know that now is because I've been out there to the, you know, to this place, to the place where I plan on parking a number of times, but it allows parking that I could go anywhere that's in that general vicinity. So here's a suggestion I would say to anybody that's in TNT training is get you a little notebook or tablet or however you want to organize yourself. And if you're in a place that you know parking's hard, just write it down. So, you know, if you're in Oakland like me, I know the customer code where I'm gonna park anytime I'm out there, wrote that customer code down, good to go. Same thing with the Northeast, stuff like that. So really came in handy with me kind of learning different, or not learning, but finding different places to park around the country. Next thing is, I think I probably damn near almost drove over almost, you know, every highway you could go on other than like some of the little highways and stuff like that during my training. So you just kind of know, you get a lot more familiar with the terrain and different things like that doing that much time. Now you're obviously going to do that on your own, but I'm just saying, when I got out there on my own, you know, I just knew what to expect before it even got there. You know, Pennsylvania is a good example. You know, if you're going in Pennsylvania from the east or from the east, west, or south, is totally different, each different kind of direction you go. So I knew that prior to even just going in there. And I think Pennsylvania is kind of one of those states where everybody's going to go into anyway. So that may not be that good of an example, but really, it just slowed everything down for me. You know, I never felt really panicked. I mean, I did get a certain level of anxiety just being out on my own, which, I mean, I think is just normal to any degree when you, you know, when you start off on your own. But I think the transition was a whole lot smoother than if I was just to leave at 30,000 miles. As a matter of fact, you know, Prime does 30,000 miles. I think Swift does it by hours, and I mean, they're kicking people out like super early. And you know, I personally, I think 30,000 miles might be a little bit light. I think 50,000 miles is right about where it should be. Personally, the problem with the 50,000 miles is dealing with the trainer during that 50,000 miles. If you happen to be with a great trainer, 50,000 miles is going to go by super quick. The home schedule and things like that, with how the pay is for uh, trainees during the 50,000 miles. I think that could be a little bit dialed in better at Prime. To me, uh, I wasn't concerned about the pay. I mean, me and my trainer were running about 45 days out, and then we would be off 2 to 3 weeks or something like that. During those 2 to 3 weeks, I wasn't getting paid. I think there might be a difference if you're a company driver or if your trainer's a company driver, a lease driver. I don't know, but I can only speak from my experiences. But my suggestion, I guess, would be, first of all, even though I did this with my first trainer, didn't help, humble yourself before you get into TNT training. I know a lot of people that are coming into trucking already have had successful careers, already have what would be considered a successful life and stuff like that, and trying to come into a business where you're starting at the ground floor, you know, from an ego standpoint, could be a little bit hard if you aren't capable of humbling yourself. So that's going to be one thing that I suggest. But try and think if there's anything else. I mean, I think the main thing is just being able to transition seamless to being out on your own. Just even in 150,000 miles, I'm going to be honest with you. There's certain things that I was missing during the 150,000 miles. And I think it wasn't like they were shown to me, but they might have been shown to me once, and then we just kind of got away from it. But I know that personally, me, stupid as it sounds, just comm checks. We didn't really have a whole bunch of unloading that needed comm checks. I could maybe think of 4 or 5 the entire time that we were there. I think I did one, and he probably did the rest of them. But little things like that. If you're out 30,000 miles, you may not be stuck on the side of a road needing to use roadside assistance. Guess what? As soon as I got out on my own, I had to get in touch with roadside assistance because of a trailer that I'd picked up that was broke. So had I not gone through that during my TNT training, I'm not sure how I would have handled that. I mean, obviously, Prime has a good network, so it got figured out. But it wasn't even a second thought. As soon as it went down, boom, got on the app, typed in my stuff to roadside, gave him a call, got things handled. Roadside would be one thing that you may not. Claims, you know what? I'm going to tell you this right now. I don't think we had a claim the entire time I was in TNT training. So that's going to be something, even after 150,000 miles, the first time I have a claim or something like that comes up, that's going to be the first time that I will have dealt with a claim. So my advice, listen, unless it's absolutely necessary for some reason or another, just absorb this 50,000 miles that you might be doing with Prime or whatever company that you plan on doing. You're going to be out on your own soon enough. That truck's not going to go anywhere. So just soak it up. Like I said, if there's one more bit of advice I'd say, and you know what, just pay attention. There's another YouTube channel I'm going to give a shout out to, Trucking Along with Kiersey. There was a time that I was driving through, and I'm going to leave a link to her channel. See this little bar right there? Click on that bar, go to her channel. But I was driving through, I don't remember what state I was driving through. Horrible state, but she's been driving so long that she was giving me truck stops by exit and all this different kind of stuff just off the top of her head. Now, you may not be able to get that good while you're in TNT training, but if you can pay attention to what's around you while you're out there driving, it will make things a little bit easier. Like I said, that's one thing I wish I'd have paid a little bit more attention to, was actually writing down some of these. The bigger truck stops, they're kind of easier to find, stuff like that. But just some of these little, whether they're big old dirt lots or something like that, I've seen primarily like in California, or just some of these little truck stops that you know, they may show up on Trucker Pass, but sometimes, if, you know, it's just a little bit easier if you have it written down or something like that. Anyway, y'all know I can ramble, so I'm going to cut that short right now. I'm about to get inside. We are going to be cooking some seared pork tenderloin medallions. What I'm going to do is chop up some bacon into little thin strips. We're going to fry off that bacon. I have some gnocchi. I'm going to kind of parboil that, then throw that in that oil, kind of toast them up a little bit, remove those, add a little bit of butter if necessary, sear my medallions. We're going to add a little bit of heavy cream, some pesto sauce to that to make a little sauce. Boom. That's going to be a wrap. Anyway, that's what I'm headed to now. Check out my barbecue and cooking channel, No Hippie Barbecue and Cooking. I'm going to leave a link to that channel right up here in this banner. Click on that. It'll take you right to my barbecue and cooking channel. Anyway, I'd like to thank you guys for stopping by No Hippie Trucking and Transportation. I appreciate it. Comment, subscribe. I'm out.